Hello, welcome back. It's so good to see you. So, today we're going to be talking about the movies and TV shows and stuff that I've watched for the month of March. I will be telling you the Rotten Tomatoes score, who stars in it, basically telling you what it's about, and then I'm going to let you know what I think about it. Does my opinion matter? Not really. This is just a video for relaxation, rambling on. Plus, I love making these videos because I love talking about shows and movies and stuff. I love it. Okay, so what have I been watching? There are some things on this list that are like fantastic. And then there's some things on the list that suck real bad. So, let's start out with something good. It's a show on HBO Max. It's called The Last of Us. Rotten Tomatoes score gave it a 96%. Audience score gave it an 89%. It stars Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. This show is something that I have been waiting a very long time for. But it is based off of a video game. What? But it's one of the greatest video games of like all time. And it's called The Last of Us. So this show is it's like a drama. There are some funny parts to it though. Bella Ramsey plays this girl named Ellie. And at first I was kind of worried about the actors because I was like, they don't give me the vibes of the characters in the video game. But once I saw the first episode, I was like, yep, they're perfect. They're perfect. But Bella Ramsey is just so funny. She's so cool. And I actually just recently found out that my niece is named after Ellie from the video game. Oh, what? Anyway, okay, so, what's it about? Well, there's this man named Joel and this girl named Ellie, and they are having to travel, like, across the United States, but there's a problem. There has been an outbreak. I don't want to say zombies, but it's zombies. And I know what you're thinking. Oh god, not another zombie movie. If you ever watch any zombie movie or show or whatever, watch this one. I know a lot of people like The Walking Dead and stuff like that, but this is so good. I just love it so much. But the reason why they're having to travel across America is because Ellie, the girl, I think she's like 12 or 13, something like that. She is immune to zombies. And she's actually been bit by one of the zombies. No effect, nothing. So they think that there's something in her blood that might be the cure. And this is like, I don't know, 15 years or something after the initial outbreak, or 20 years, something like, I don't remember, whatever. Anyway, so she's just been living with this secret, and then people discover, hey, she's been bit, she's immune, we have to get her somewhere that, is safe, that they can not experiment, but use her to help the world, really. And it is just as great as the video game. If you don't want to play the video game, you can go watch the video game on YouTube. I recommend watching Jacksepticeye play The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2, because it's really, really good. It's like watching a show. It's amazing, and I don't really remember too much about the first game, except for the first chunk or whatever. My husband said that it goes pretty, like, it sticks to the storyline and stuff of the game, but it goes into more depth and you get people's backstories and stuff like that, but I highly recommend it. It's really good, even if you're not into video games or if you're not into zombies. It's really not about the zombies, you know what I mean? Really, really good. I would definitely watch it. I'd watch it again. Like, it's that good. Okay, the next thing that I watched, I've been watching since like January, but like they've only been releasing one episode at a time. I hate when that happens. It's like everybody just needs to be like Netflix and drop the whole season at once. That would be fantastic. But it's a show on Peacock, and it is called Poker Face. Rotten Tomato score gave it a 99%. Audience score gave it 80%. And this is like a crime, drama, murder mystery type thing. And it stars Natasha Lyonne. And she plays this, she's like a casino worker that unintentionally solves a murder that she shouldn't have solved, because she kind of let the bad guys know that she knew what happened, and so now they're after her, so she's on the run. And each week that the show comes out, it's like a totally different show. I did forget sometimes that what you're watching. The production value is fantastic. The acting is fantastic, and the guest stars are great. It's like it had so many guest stars, and each episode is a completely different story, but they all connect with this girl. I can't remember what her name is, but Natasha Lyonne, because she's on the run, so she has to, like, get jobs in certain areas, or stop and get gas and like stuff like that. And she finds herself in situations where there's been a murder, and she has this, she calls it a bullshit detector. Sorry, that's literally what she says. She's like a human lie detector, and every time she hears lies, she calls them out on it. And so because of this lie detector thing that she has, she's able to solve all these murders, but she doesn't really take any of the credit for it because she's on the run. So every time the cops show up, she's got to get out of town. And just the whole time she's on the run, right? But you completely forget about it because you get lost in the episodes because they're so good and they don't have anything to do with the main story. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you don't like last week's episode, this week's episode is going to be totally different. Not that that's the case. It's really, really good. And I can't wait for season 2. But I'm sure I'll have to wait like at least a year and a half. You know how it goes. But it's super good. Another fantastic thing that I watched, this is probably like my second. The first favorite is The Last of Us. The second favorite would be Shrinking on Apple TV. Audience score gave it 81%. Oh wait, no. Rotten Tomato score gave it 81%. Audience score gave it 85%. I think it deserves better than that. But it stars Jason Segel and Harrison Ford and a bunch of other people. This is a comedy. It's like a 30-minute comedy. I wish it was longer. That's how good it is. But I almost didn't watch it, and I was kind of running out of things, and it was like on my to-do list. And then my friend Charlie she messaged me on Instagram and was like, have you started watching Shrinking yet? And I'm like, that's on my to-do list or whatever. But because she told me that it was good, I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it like tonight, right? So I started watching it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so good. It's probably, you know how Apple TV is known for like Ted Lasso, like that's the number one show on Apple TV or whatever. I think Shrinking is blowing that show out of the water. Like, it's fantastic. First of all, Jason Segel, I love him. He is so funny. And in saying that, I think that he's one of those people that don't really act. He's just so good at being him that people are like, yeah, just say these lines, but say them the way you would say them, and that's the show, you know? Like, I think, who is like that? I know there's other people. Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's like that. He's the same in everything, but he's so good that whatever. I can't think of anybody else right now, but if you like Jason Segel, you're gonna love this show. And Harrison Ford, I've never been a fan of Harrison Ford. Never. I've never really liked anything that he's been in. Sorry if you're a Harrison Ford fan. So I was kind of like hesitant because Harrison Ford, I love him now. I love him now because of this show. It's just, so Jason Segel is a therapist. Him and Harrison Ford and this other lady, which I can't think of her name right now, they work in this therapy like building together or something. I don't know, they're like a group of therapists. And anyway, so Jason Segel, he is a grieving man because his wife died like a year ago, and he hates his life, you know, because I mean, he lost his wife, but he has to try and keep it together because he has a daughter. But he's really, at the beginning of the show, he's really not got it together. Like, it's real bad. But he starts, he gets mad at his patients because he's like, they're all stupid. They don't listen to me. They don't take my advice. So I'm not going to be the therapist anymore. I'm going to tell them the truth about how I feel and what I think they should actually do. So, like, he says, you're an idiot. Do this, you know, to his patients. And his patients actually, like, one of his patients kind of listens to him, and he's like so thrown back by the fact that she listens to him that he's like, this is my plan now, this is what I'm gonna do. And Harrison Ford, his boss, is like, that's stupid, don't do it. But does Jason Segel listen? No. He does whatever he wants. And I feel like it kind of turns out better that way. Like, but in real life, I don't think that would work because people would get mad. Like, you don't tell me what to do. But, like, you can't see the situation that you're in. Other people can see it, you know? Anyway, I bet if any therapists watch the show, they're like, oh, I wish. But Harrison Ford is like this super grumpy old man. And it's hilarious because secretly, you know, he's a sweet guy who cares about people and stuff, but on the outside he's got this hard, tough, grumpy, grouchy exterior. And I don't know, it's just really good. And the show just lets you see that therapists are people too. They got their own problems. Nobody's got their stuff together. Nobody. So, and it's hilarious. Okay, the next thing that I watched was a movie, and I watched it with the kids when we were on spring break at the movie theater. It is Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Rotten Tomato score gave it a 51%. Audience score gave it an 87%. This is kind of like an action comedy, and it stars Zachary Levi and, shockingly, Helen Mirren. Like, I was not expecting to see Helen Mirren in this movie. But I think she did a pretty good job. But it's just, if you haven't seen Shazam, it's like a superhero movie where this teenage boy, Billy Batson, is visited by some like wizard guy, and he gives him superpowers, and if he says Shazam, he turns into this adult, big, muscly man who's a superhero. So imagine like a 16-year-old boy all of a sudden becoming this massive man superhero. What? So it just continues that story, and in the first movie there was this like staff that Shazam snapped over his knee. Well, then he just threw that away or something. Like, that's how they explained it. He just threw it away in a dumpster, or put it behind a dumpster or something like that. And some person found it and put it in like a museum. Well, the gods found out about it, and they came back to this world or something to try and kill whoever broke that staff, because that staff had like all the powers of their dad in it or something. I don't know. The story was kind of like, what? I don't know. To me, it didn't feel like a kid movie. Like, you have to know the history of Shazam, which I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The kids didn't care. I think because I watched it in the theater, and we watched it in we had the XD experience, so it was like the biggest theater that you can imagine, and like the sound quality and stuff was better, and like, I don't know. I think because we watched it in the theater, it was like awesome. But if I were to watch it at home, I would have been like, meh. And I think that's why it got kind of not so good reviews. Now, I did like it when I watched it again. I don't think so. Once is enough. It's like, it did have some really funny parts in it, and it's an action adventure movie, and there's a surprise guest star that I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that this person was actually in this movie. I thought it was really cool. But there were also like mystical creatures and dragons and unicorns, but it's not like what you think. So that part was cool. Like, yeah. But in saying that, I don't think I would watch it again. There's no need to. So, okay. The next thing that I watched was a movie on Hulu, and it is called Boston Strangler, starring Keira Knightley and Carrie Coon. Rotten Tomato score gave it a 67%. Audience score gave it a 76%. So, I don't know anything about the Boston Strangler. Like, has there been any movies about it? I don't know. If there have, I haven't seen it. But this is like documenting. It's a movie. It's not like a documentary, but it's like showing you. It's a true story about the Boston Strangler, but how this woman named Loretta McLaughlin, if that's how you say her name, became the first journalist to connect the Boston Strangler murders, and nobody wanted to listen to this girl or this woman because she was a woman. I don't remember what year this was, like maybe the early 60s or 70s, something like that. But back then, women being journalists, like, you didn't get real work, you know. like before she started working on this, she was a product reviewer or something, and she had to test how a sunbeam toaster worked, and she had to write a big article about it. And she's like, there's real news to be done here, you know. But once her editor realized that, hey, she might be onto something about these Boston Strangler things, let's have her write up something for real. And yeah, the police did not do a great job, but they started doing a better job once she started like showing the holes in their, you know, investigation. I don't know. It was alright. I would probably never watch it again because it was so slow. So slow. I don't think it needed to be that slow. Maybe there's not that much of a story there. Maybe that's why it was so slow. But it was really slow. And they made it really dark. So it kind of reminded me of, I think there's a movie called like The Zodiac or The Zodiac Killer. I can't think of the name of the guy that's in it. But there's a movie that's very similar to this. It's called, I think it's called The Zodiac or the Zodiac Killer or something like that. But it's almost exactly like that. Because in The Zodiac, I wish I could remember that guy's name. I think he was like a photographer or something who was doing a story on the Zodiac. And he actually may have been in the same location or room or something. I just remember that one scene because it was really kind of scary and intense in that movie. There's a scene very similar to that in Boston Strangler, and I was like, this is exactly like the Zodiac. It was weird. So yeah. And then I went and read stuff about Boston Strangler, and the story that I read was much more interesting than the movie. So yeah. Okay, the next thing that I watched is my number 3 favorite thing. So the favorite things are The Last of Us, Shrinking, and this, Daisy Jones and the Six. It's on Amazon Prime. Rotten Tomato score gave it a 71. Audience score gave it a 76. What? That should be way higher. I loved it. It's based off of a book. I almost bought the book like 2 months ago, and then I decided not to. And then I saw an article saying there's a show coming out about it, so I was like, oh, good thing I didn't get the book. Maybe that's why people didn't like it. Maybe it like switches up from the book. I don't know. But this is a drama show, and it stars Riley Keough and Sam Claflin. I don't know. But so this is a fiction type thing, but it feels like it's real. It feels real. So it starts out, it says this at the beginning of the movie. It's like in 1977, this band, Daisy Jones and the Six, were like at the top of the world. They just had this like world tour or something, like, I don't know. And the best-selling album ever. And then suddenly they just call it quits and they're like, we're done. They break up and that's it. It's over. There's no more getting back together, no more awesome music, nothing. But decades later, like, I don't know, 20 years later or something, the members of this band agree to an interview to reveal the truth. What happened after that tour? Why did they break up? What is the secret, you know? But what's really cool about it is they like show it from their humble beginnings, you know, and they're not even a band. It's like it's weird, but it shows how the band started and then how they met and became this band and stuff like that. But during it, it has them now, 20 years later, giving the interview explaining what you have just seen. I don't know, it's really cool. I don't think I've ever seen anything set up like that before, and I really like it. And I actually waited to watch it, and I binged it so fast. I'm glad I waited so that I could just watch them back to back, because it was like real good. I liked it a lot. And this girl, Riley Keough, I was like, who is this? She looks so familiar. And the actors in the movie or the show can sing so well. It's like, dang, maybe they should be a band and start making some music, because it sounds really good. And I was like, who is this girl? And she's actually Elvis's granddaughter. Oh, what? That's awesome. Okay. All right. The next thing that I watched, these next two things, I don't know how I feel about them. Okay. The next thing that I watched was a show on Hulu. That's how I watched it, but I think it's actually on Fox. It's like a little 30-minute comedy deal. It's called Animal Control. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 60%. Audience score gave it a 52%. And I kind of agree. It stars Joel McHale, which is the reason that I watched the show, because I like Joel McHale. He used to be on like this show called like Talk Soup or The Soup, something like that. And he's just like a comedian guy or whatever. And then he also did Community. So I was like, oh, he's doing a new show. Let's see what this is about, right? So this is a little 30-minute comedy, and Joel McHale plays this. He is actually an ex-cop who got fired from the department for basically exposing, I don't know, something wrong in the government or something. So now he has to work in animal control. And he is like, I don't know if he's like the top animal control officer or what, but he appears that way because he's very cocky. And he's like a know-it-all, except he doesn't really know it all. He just thinks he does, This show wants to be good. It's like, I feel like it's almost good, but just it's not there. It gives me Brooklyn Nine-Nine vibes, and I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And there's this one guy in it, I can't remember his name, but he gives me very Andy Samberg vibes. And I'm like, why didn't you just get Andy Samberg? Because I miss him, and he's hilarious. I don't know, I want to like it, but it's not there yet. So hopefully it gets a second season, because you know how sometimes shows in their first season, it's not the best. Like The Office, don't get me wrong, it's my favorite show, but the first season, it's not the best. And I think it's because they tried to do like a shot-for-shot remake of The Office UK version. It wasn't until season 2 when they started like branching out, and doing their own thing, and that's when it got good. I'm hoping that this Animal Control, if it gets a second season, it'll do something like that. Like it'll get, because it's like it's got all the components of a good show. It just, something's missing, and I don't know what it is. But I don't know. It's kind of funny. Okay, this last thing that I watched is the worst thing. The worst. And I'm really pissed about it. Okay, so it is a movie that I watched on AMC Plus. But I think you can also watch it on Shudder. It is a scary movie called Skinamarink. Rotten Tomatoes score gave it a 71%. Audience score gave it a 44%. And I think it deserves way less. Way less. So the cast, who knows? I looked it up, but I'm like, I don't know any of these people, and who cares? Because you don't see anyone in this movie. You know who you see? Feet and legs. That's who you get to see. And walls. What? So this movie was supposed to be the scariest movie of all time, right? And I was really pissed because I wanted to go see it in the movie theater, and none of the theaters had it around here. You would have to go to, like, I think it was like in Rosenberg or something, south of Houston, to go see this. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'll just wait for it to come out. And no, people are so, like, the scale, so many people are like, this is the greatest horror film ever created, and other people are like, this is the worst thing that was ever created. What are you talking about? And I agree with these people, because it is the absolute worst. So what happens? Well, first of all, you can't really see anything because this movie is so dark. Me and my husband had to turn off all the lights just so that we could see what was going on the TV. And it's very grainy, like it was filmed with a camera from like 1965 or something. Like, it was just awful grainy. And I was like, okay, that must add to like the scariness, right? No. Everything is whispered and very distorted and quiet and just weird. But the story is supposed to be that two children wake up in the middle of the night to find that their parents are missing. But also, all the windows disappear and the doors, and like the house is weird or something. But like, I don't know if I'm just dumb, but I didn't get anything in this movie. Like, I had no idea what was going on the whole time. The camera's just staring at weird angles at, like, here's a corner, and you just get to look at the corner for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, but you hear sounds in the background. And then in this corner, you're looking at it, and all of a sudden a window appears, and then it goes away. What the hell? What? So it didn't make any sense. It was so confusing, and I literally had to stand up because it was so boring that I literally was falling asleep. It was the worst. There was no really talking, anything like that. And if there was talking, we had to put the subtitles on because you can't hear anything. It was very mumbled and whispered, and like, I don't even know if the subtitles got it right. But after it was over, me and my husband looked at each other like, what the hell was that? That was the worst thing we'd ever seen. And it was just so boring and confusing. And so I was like, maybe we're just dumb. So we went online to look like, you know, Skinamarink movie explained or whatever. And there were people that explained the movie that we just watched, but it didn't really explain anything. Supposedly, like, their parents are there and then they disappear, and then there's some like demonic creature, but you never see it, you don't really hear it. Like, it said that there was a demonic creature there, but I just thought that that was the dad talking or something, because the voices didn't change or anything like that. So, but you couldn't hear what he was saying anyway. I don't know, it was just so, I'm glad that I didn't go to see that in the theater, because I would have been pissed. And you know how when you go to the theater, people are eating popcorn or drinking drinks, or this movie's so quiet. That's all you would have heard was people eating. No, thank you. No. So that was the worst thing that I saw. So if you're on the fence about, do I want to see this? No, you don't. It's the worst. Anyway, so yeah, that is all the stuff that I watched for March. I really hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.